Hi everyone, my name is Megan Lefebvre and I'm your instructor for COM 501. Welcome to COM 501. The first lecture we'll do is parts of a research project and we'll get going. What I want you to get out of this is just to become familiar with the steps in a research project or the pieces of the puzzle, and also to start to think about how you will put together your pieces of your puzzle. So the parts. Number 1, create your research question. And we will go through this in class, so don't worry, you don't need to come to class with a research question. We will take a lot of time, especially in the first week, to think of questions and to finalize or narrow down our questions. So what I want you to do when you're doing this is to really take the time to think about what interests you and or the community you're working with. Decide if this issue can be really accomplished in the time you have and the resources you have. These two things are very important. Your research question is creating a research question is harder than you think. So you might first of all start off with all these questions. They're huge questions, but just narrow it down. So think about the big puzzle, your whole area, your topic area is a puzzle, and you want to contribute one piece. So one very good, well done, rigorous piece to that puzzle instead of doing the whole puzzle by yourself. So you've got your question. The next step is to do a literature review. And this is critical to the success of your project. This shows the readers or the listeners why your question is needed now. You've got your question, you go to the literature, and you see what's out there. If your question has already been answered, you can't do it. It's already been answered. It doesn't make sense. So I need to know, by the time I read your literature review, I know what the background is, I know what the issues are, but why is your question needed to be answered now? And I want you to do this by telling me a story and not a summary of the literature. This might be the hardest part of your project, and this is why it's a good idea to contact a librarian to help you. And your librarian is Patty, and she's coming in week 1. I think it's the Thursday at noon for an information session, and she is excellent, and she can help you navigate all the different areas of the literature. Okay, so you've got your question, you know the literature, you know it's important. You've got to now situate your research and your question in a theoretical context. So this context will show us why your research matters now and how it's going to contribute to the literature. You can draw from many of the communications theories that you've learned in the past that are relevant to your question, and you can also draw on areas outside of communications. So for example, my area was in HIV and medication adherence. So I largely drew from medicine. Also, I drew from public health, nursing, pharmacology, pharmacy, qualitative community-based research, that area. So as well as medicine, there's a lot of other areas I looked at and grounded my question in. Then you choose your method. So your research question drives your method. You don't choose your method first and then create your research question. But and we will go through this many times through the course, so don't worry if you're confused. But before we get to methods, what is a method? Well, this is Jan Morris and her colleague Lynn Richards. They're two qualitative researchers who we'll hear from many times in the course. And they say a method is a collection of research strategies and techniques based on theoretical assumptions that combine to form a particular approach to data and mode of analysis. So it's an approach on how to gather, interpret, create your findings. Let's hear from someone else. This is Maria Mahan. She's a faculty member in the Faculty of Extension, and you may know her. You will meet her throughout this course, and she was my mentor, so you will see her many times in this course. She says a method provides a set of procedures, not prescriptions, so there's some flexibility, it's not rigid, that outline, for instance, the method's data collection strategies, typical sample size, and analytical strategies. So it's a procedure that tells you how you're going to go about doing things. Again, research question drives your method. Your method is an overall plan. It's not a data gathering strategy. So some people think focus group is a method. It's not. A focus group is a data gathering strategy. And again, we'll go over this many, many times. But for right now, when you got your question, you need to decide, are you asking a qualitative question or a quantitative question? Because that will determine will you use a qualitative method or a quantitative method. And if you're confused, Don't worry, we're going to learn all of this in the next few weeks. So now you've got your method. Now you need to choose your data gathering strategy or strategies. You can use more than one. Some typical quantitative data gathering strategies are questionnaires, surveys, chart reviews. You can use interviews. Interviews are commonly used in qualitative, when you're asking qualitative questions. So is participant observation, so are focus groups, and so is a strategy that's gathering documents, images, tweets, photos, videos. All of these things are data gathering strategies. Then you must obtain ethics or board approval. So all research projects that work with humans or animal participants or subjects need ethics approval. You cannot even start your research until you've got U of A or whatever ethics board approval you need. And lucky for us, we have Stanley Varhagen coming in this week to talk to us and walk us through step by step how we do this at the U of A. Then you do your research. So you've got your ethics, you know your question, you've got your method, you've got your ethics. And what does Maria say about this? My hope is that you are as captivated by the process of doing your research as you are with your findings. Let your qualitative or quantitative inquiry enable you to experience your research in its fullest. See it, smell it, taste it, hear it, touch it. Take it all in, let it envelop you, and enjoy the ride. And this is what really happened to me in my research. I was fully immersed. I didn't expect to be, but I was waking up in the middle of the night thinking about my research. I had a notebook handy, so I wrote things down. I always was talking about it. I was meeting new people within the research. I was learning new things, and it was really neat. I fully felt like I experienced research. So I hope you do too, and so does Maria. So now you've done your research and you analyze your findings. So with if you asked a quantitative question, you would use a quantitative data analysis technique that largely involves numbers. So you need to know some statistics knowledge. So some common statistical tests you may use, and we'll talk about these, are Pearson's R for correlations, chi-squared test, a t-test, or you might take it a step further and do a regression analysis. But if you asked a qualitative question, you use words or interactions when you're writing up and explaining your findings. You don't use numbers. So a common data analysis technique that's used in qualitative inquiry is content analysis. Content analysis is not a data gathering strategy. It's not a method. It's a data analysis technique. And we'll go over this way more in the course. But I want you to note here, if you're asking a qualitative question, you gather and analyze your data at the same time. You must do this, and we will talk about this a lot later on. So then you write up or you create your findings. And this can be fun and easy if you've planned your research well and you have a good, solid question. So, of course, your findings have to be exciting, interesting, relevant, easy to read, watch, hear, or see. I said if you're writing, use active voice. I was taught this, and it makes the reader or the listener feel like they're present in your research. They're going along with you on your journey. And avoid long sentences with strings of prepositional phrases. So, for example, you can read that. I don't even know if you want to read that sentence that I put up there, but it's very long, it's wordy, it doesn't tell you much, and you just can't take it in. So avoid sentences like that. You can also, if you want to create or write up your findings using an arts-based approach, that's fine. So you can also use sound, film, collage, dance to present your findings. And we did this in my research. We used film and photography to present our findings. Here's an example of Terry Genois. I'm not French and I'm not sure how to pronounce her last name, so somebody else who is French, I'm sorry. But she presented her findings using text and performance. Here's an example of using a collage to present findings. But if you do use an arts-based approach to present your findings, Maria and I and another researcher called, I think her first name is Lynn Butler-Kisber, have some questions that you should consider. The first one is, what if good research gets transformed into bad art? So you've done this great research, but the presentation of it isn't that good. What will people say? Will they pay attention to your findings? What will they focus on more? Should researchers have training in photography to work with photographs? Training in collage to develop a collage? Take a visual fundamentals course? Is there any danger in using art to communicate data when you are unaware of its foundations? How can we ethically create collages when we use the images created by other people? And lastly, how or can we critique collage or critique photo, critique a dance? So these are some questions you can ask yourself and reflect on if you choose an arts-based approach to present your findings. So once you've done everything, you've analyzed your data, it's out there, you need to get it out there. You need to share your findings, so knowledge exchange. Too much research is not shared. And I suggest you take your show on the road, share your findings with everyone, talk about it, present it at conferences, community events, university classrooms, local level, international or national or international if you can, and be creative when you're presenting your findings. It's great if you can publish in academic journals, but think beyond that. What about a blog? Contact the local media. Tweet it, anything to get your message out there. So here, I'll end with this. This is from my kid's book. He's 2 and starting to read books like this to him. Just because it says, open minds operate best. Critical thinking over tests. Wisdom can't be memorized. Educate, agitate, organize. So when you're doing your research project, be flexible, be open-minded, have fun, think critically about everything you're doing. And that's it. So I look forward to seeing you guys on the first day of class. Thanks very much.